What's happening, everybody? Boy Big Brandoh, and welcome to another episode of BSing with Brandoh. This one right here, we're going to be talking all about investing in yourself. I kind of wanted to tell this story about how I found out I should be investing in myself and what that actually means to me. Now, this doesn't mean go out and spend a ton of money, and I'm not trying to get you guys to buy into any kind of crazy equipment or anything like that. This is just my realization of kind of investing in yourself and actually buying back into the business and paying for education and stuff like that. So a lot of people, when they hear you have to invest in yourself, a lot of times it comes from a malicious state of mind because there might be an influencer or a content creator somewhere out there in the world that's trying to get you to buy into, maybe their program or the equipment that they use because they get affiliate money from that. Or sometimes it could be just in general where somebody's like, hey, you know what? You should invest in yourself, buy this because I bought this and this is what you need. That's not what I'm talking about here. For myself, long time ago, I used to paint on shoes, and I'm talking about like customized sneakers and stuff like that. I never did it as a business, and it wasn't for money. I was always doing it for myself. Sometimes Air Force Ones didn't come in a certain color that I really wanted, so I would color match, different color hats and stuff like that and paint different color blockings and colorways on the sneakers like Air Force Ones. And I would buy an all white Air Force One and the whole top was leather, and I just go to town on that thing. That to me used to just be fun. It wasn't a business. It wasn't me trying to be a custom sneaker guy. It was just me wanting to match my clothes. So I would buy the paints and mix the paints to get the right color to match whatever I was doing. If it was a t-shirt I was wearing, if it was a hat that I was wearing, and I wanted some sneakers to match that exactly, I would basically just sit there and mix paints until the color looked somewhat similar and then paint it on the sneakers. So I was doing that for a very, very long time until I came across a guy named Larry. And Larry was out here from the South Bay, and shout out to the homie Larry, rest in peace. Dude was a really, really dope dude, but he was heavy into the customized sneaker game early 2000s. And I met Larry in 2003 in the Lakewood Mall, and he had on a pair of shoes that I was like, yo, man, like, those are dope when those come out. And he was just like, oh, man, I just took this shoe and then I painted this, and this is what it was. That to me right there was dope to see because I was doing the same exact thing he was, right? I was using paints, I was painting on sneakers, and he had some that made me say, those aren't custom sneakers. That looks like what Nike would release, right? And back then, 2003, this is like Air Force Ones are a big deal, white on white Air Force Ones, mid tops are a thing. Just Air Force Ones in general had a really good run from like 2000 to like early 2004, 2005. Like it was just a hype thing where everybody was buying into Air Force Ones. Nelly had a song about Air Force Ones. It was just a crazy time. And for me, when I seen those shoes and I was like, yo, man, those are cool. And he said that he painted them. I needed to know, how the hell did you paint them to make them look like you bought them at a store? And that's what kind of wowed me about that dude's stuff. And I would always see him in the Lakewood Mall. And as time went on, we kept talking and we kept in contact. And I would say maybe like a year later, I run into him at the Delamo swap meet, and he's buying like Air Force Ones by like the stack load from some vendor in the Delamo swap meet. And I'm like, yo, Larry, man, what the hell you doing? And he had like a crazy heavy Puerto Rican accent, but he was just like, man, I got this order. I need to paint these shoes up. And he backed his car in right to the door and he was loading everything in there. And as we're talking, he was just like, because I would always, anytime I would see him, I would kind of chirp him and just ask him random questions about painting shoes, not just for small talk, but kind of because I wanted to know what the hell he was doing and I wanted to kind of create what he was doing. And he would be down enough to give me all the information that I needed. Anytime I had a question, anytime I was just interested in whatever he was doing, he was super geeked up just to talk to me about it because this is something that he loved. He was doing it for business, but he genuinely really loved painting sneakers, talking about the process, all that stuff. So I thought I knew what I was doing. For one, I was using the wrong paints. That's why my shoes didn't look like his. I was using regular ass acrylic paint, and he was using Angelus paint, like it's made for leather. It was made for painting on sneakers. I was blind to it. I didn't even know there was a difference. I thought everybody just used acrylic paints. Outside of that, prepping the surface, I thought since I was buying like brand new sneakers, I didn't need to prep the surface. I just bought brand new sneakers, painted on them, and then I would experience cracking. And that was because the surface wasn't prepped and I was using the wrong paints. So these are things that, I'm asking him, and he's kind of just coaching me along and telling me, what he uses and how he uses it and stuff like that. And it's cool. I'm picking up all the game. When I get home, I don't know where to start and what to do. So when I seen him at Delamo Swap Meet and he had this big job going on, he was telling me that he now teaches kind of like a class on how to paint sneakers, how to customize sneakers. And, he told me the price, and I was just like, all right, that's cool. But it wasn't a business for me. So it was like, am I going to pay to try to learn how to paint sneakers as a business, or am I going to pay just to get this information? And I was like, man, I'll just keep running into this dude and keep chirping him and asking for the free stuff, right, instead of paying for it. Well, anyways, I run into him at the Lakewood Mall. This is at the World Foot Locker. This is back when Lakewood Mall had a World Foot Locker. And I talked to him, and we're talking about sneakers, and he's buying some Air Force Ones. And I'm telling him, what are you going to paint on them? And he's like, oh, man, like, I'm going to recreate these to look like these. So what he was basically doing was he was turning some sneakers that were, I forget what dunk it was. I don't remember if it was a SB dunk or just a regular dunk, but he was making the Air Force One look like a dunk. And we're talking about it, and he was telling me how the class is going, and he was going to be teaching a class down in Long Beach. And he was like, if you're ever interested, hit me up. This is back, I don't remember if it was two ways or if it was sidekicks. It might have been the sidekick time. And he was just like, message me, and I'll get you connected. So anyways, I'm like, all right, you know what? I was interested in the whole process of making a dunk look like a Air Force One. And I was just like, all right, I'm going to go to this class so I could learn how to do this thing. It wasn't for a business though. And it was just because I was really interested in what the hell he was doing. So I go to the class, and it blows my mind. And if I remember correctly, the class was like $300 or something like that. And it was maybe an hour or two, if that. And what he did was he just rented out. I don't even know if he rented out, but he had permission from this small little boutique cafe type restaurant. And he just had maybe 10, 15 people in their chairs set up in the backside of this restaurant. And he kind of talked about the process. He passed around some shoes that he did and kind of just walked you through everything that he did, from the paints he used, the brushes he used, to how he preps the surface, how he masks off certain areas, the stuff that he mixes with the paints to get it to look matte or to get it to look more glossy. How to prolong the paint on the sneaker, because that was one thing that I was kind of messed up on, was the cracking of the paint and stuff like that, and it looking cheap after a few wears. He went through the whole process, right? Everything was kind of just laid out right there. And it wowed me. It's because I learn differently, right? Like, there's a lot of people that learn a million different ways, right? Some people could read a book and pick it up and comprehend what's going on and be like, all right, cool, I know what I'm doing. There's people that learn through pictures. Like, they could look at the instructions and see a diagram and be like, all right, I need to do this, this, and this. There's people like myself that I learn better when I hear somebody talk. I learn better, not just from hands-on experience. Yeah, hands-on experience helps me, but when somebody's actually doing what I want, and I know that they've been through it already, and they're actually telling me or giving me some game, I soak that up. That's how I learn. I was bad in school. Like, I didn't learn in school, reading a book, doing the work, doing all that stuff. I didn't learn that way. But if somebody was talking to me, that's how I comprehend whatever information is being thrown at me. And all that started to click in my head was like, I paid the money for this class, and it's not because I wanted to start a custom sneaker business. I went there because I was just interested in what he was doing. And I wanted to do it for my own personal use. Like I painted my own sneakers, and I just wanted to be able to paint some sneakers to make them look like they came straight from Nike. And that was always my main goal, was I want the shoe to look as real as possible just through paint. And that I learned that from his class. And I say all this because there's so many people out here that when they hear invest in yourself, they think it means, you spend your life savings because you need to believe in yourself. And no, that's not it. When I hear invest in yourself, I'm thinking about what type of knowledge are you going to pick up? What are you actually going to get out of, whatever you're buying into, right? Whether it's equipment, machines, knowledge, training, whatever it is. Like, what are you going to get out of it? And then are you going to be able to retain that information? Are you going to be able to learn how to use that machine? Are you going to be able to, like, basically use whatever you're investing in to better yourself? And for me, it was never about starting a custom sneaker business. That was never my intention. It was always to just paint shoes for myself. And that's basically what I did. I paid to learn how to do it correctly. And it paid off, because now I'm painting sneakers and I'm painting shoes that people are like, man, when those come out, or where'd you buy those from? And I was starting to get those reactions that I gave to Larry was, where the hell did you find those? Or it wasn't tricking people. It was just, you were good enough to make people believe that that was an actual shoe and not a custom shoe. You know what I mean? Now custom sneakers and stuff like that are crazy, where people are getting like cobblers and they're sewing leathers on it, and they're using post machines to actually sew and create, sneakers with different types of materials and stuff. I'm just talking about old school painting on sneakers. And one of the things that I learned from Larry was I would always just buy white on white Air Force Ones, and then I just paint the tops, the leather part. I had never painted the rubber. I just painted the tops. And when I seen him in World Foot Locker and he was buying some shoes, he was buying some shoes that had a different color sole. And all of that mattered because he was trying to recreate this other sneaker and turn it into he was taking a Dunk, the whole color blocking from that Dunk, and putting it onto an Air Force One. And I want to say it was an SB, but I can't really remember. But what he was doing was he just bought the shoe that had the different color sole, and then he was painting the leather part, the top part. And it just made the shoe look that much better, because you didn't just have a solid white bottom and then the top was painted. It was everything matched. It was like the sole of the shoe, the stitching from, the sole to the actual leather part. Everything was thought out. And I was like, man, so since then, I stopped buying white on white Air Force Ones to paint on. And now I'm buying, Air Force Ones that have a different color top. As long as the sole was like a certain color of what I wanted, I could paint the top whatever it is. And that turned the light bulb in my head, and I was painting on sneakers and I was doing a lot of crazy stuff. And then when my son was born, this is years after, I didn't really paint shoes for myself anymore. But what I was doing was I was painting sneakers for my son. So a lot of the baby shoes and toddler shoes and youth shoes, they look a little weird, or they don't make certain ones. Like one of the ones that I did that went pretty viral on social media at the time was I painted some Jordan 1s to make them look like Royal ones. And I just bought the baby shoe or the toddler shoe that had the same color sole as the Royal ones do. And then I just painted the uppers, swapped out the laces, and it was a done deal. And it looked exactly like Royal ones, but for my son. And I did the same thing with, learning how to paint the Bape camo. I learned how to, I would do like, bread ones, and I would do all of these different sneakers that they weren't making in little kid sizes. I was finding the shoes that had the same sole, and then I just paint the tops. And that information from early 2000s all the way to like, 2013 or something like that, 10 years of knowing what Larry taught me, transitioned to just me painting shoes for my son when he was small. And I would just knock out all of these different Jordans and SB Dunks, and I turned regular little Dunks into SB colorways. and he would be in the stroller and people would geek out and be like, yo, where'd you find those in that size? And I'd be like, man, I painted them. I made them. And that was from information that I got from the early 2000s from Larry. And that $300 class or $400 class, whatever I paid for at the time, paid off because it was just information that I was able to soak in and understand that I carry with me till this day. Now there's YouTube channels on how to paint shoes and customize shoes and do all kind of stuff. And there's, way more products now that are made for customizing shoes and how to dye the mesh and dye the tongue and everything from like dyeing the lining of the shoe to get it to look like certain things. It is crazy now. But back then it was just paint shoes. And one thing that I did was, and I stole this idea from Larry, and I used to have this website called Still a Nobody, and on there it was just a bunch of different artists that kind of promoted their art form, right? Whether it was poetry, rapping, photography, graphic design, graffiti, just any type of art was promoted on Still a Nobody. And there's a lot of people involved with Still a Nobody, and we all just pushed that same website to showcase all of our art at the same time. Anyways, I might have talked about that on a podcast before. If I haven't, let me know, and I'll give you guys a story about Still a Nobody. But anyways, on Still a Nobody, I used to paint these sneakers and I used to put them up. So what I was doing was I would take authentic Vans, like the Vans that have the 3 little eyelets for shoelaces, in random colors, and then I would paint them to look like popular SB Dunks. So for example, I took like a teal color authentic Vans, and then I made it look like Tiffany Dunks, right? So like the Tiffany Dunks that Diamond Supply dropped, I painted it to look exactly like that. I did it with the Safaris. I did it with a ton of different shoes. And it was just cool to make some Vans look like Nikes, and it was a trippy thing to look at. And I just did them to paint. I didn't really wear them, but it was just something funny, right? And that got a lot of traction on the website. It used to drive a lot of people to the website, to Still a Nobody, and it was just a cool way to promote Still a Nobody and push the arts and stuff like that. Now, I say all of that, and I give you this very, very long story of what's going on, because when we talk about investing in ourselves, I invested in myself, and it wasn't even for business. It was just because I wanted to learn how to do something. When you hear people say you have to invest in yourself, you have to pay for this, you have to do this, you have to do this, sometimes it comes from somebody that has that bad energy that's just trying to get you to buy into something. There is a lot of people out there that offer courses and teach you how to do things that are beneficial to you. So I'm not knocking everybody that does this, but what I am saying is sometimes you have to actually think about it and say, what am I going to get out of this, right? It's not a get rich quick scheme. It's not some kind of pyramid marketing scheme or anything like that. What am I actually going to get out of this? Because we're kind of programmed to understand that if we pay for something, there's a big chance that we might be getting scammed. And, pyramid schemes and stuff like that are what made people realize that, these people are out to scam people. So we as normal human beings, right? Business owners or just people that are interested in certain things, we are programmed to think anytime somebody's selling something that we're being sold and we're being scammed. So you as the business owner, you need to really realize, what are you investing in? What are you getting out of it? What are you actually going to accomplish by buying into something? Like I said, if it's machines, if it's equipment, if it's knowledge, if it's some sort of technique that you wanted to learn, what are you getting out of it? And I started to see a lot of these bigger companies, especially like when DTG, DTF and stuff like that is booming, there's a lot of companies that offer training for their machines because they want to get, they want people to get up and running. Where I find it kind of weird is they offer like the basic training, and then they offer like this other training that costs like $1,200, and it'll teach you all the ins and outs. And it's like, man, why don't you just give them that training from the very beginning instead of making them buy these separate tier type of trainings? And whatever the business model behind that or justification is, so be it. But as a consumer and as somebody that would buy into certain things, I'm looking at it like, man, that's kind of jacked up. I'm going to buy this expensive ass machine and you're just going to give me the basics on how to do it. But if I want some real training, I got to pay X amount of dollars for that training after I just paid for this machine and spent thousands and thousands of dollars on, and I can't even get the training for it. That to me is crazy. But when we're actually talking about like buying into something, you just have to look at what you're actually going to get out of it, right? And there's so many people out there that are quick to tell me, and they'll be like, hey, I'll pay you for your time if you could teach me how to do this and do this and do this or whatever. Or I'll pay you for your time if I could just come shadow you in your shop and see. And to me, that's a waste of money. That's a waste of your guys' money, because you're not going to get the full experience. You're not going to learn much from that type of experience, right? The way that I see it working is, if you were going to pay into something that I was doing, there has to be value attached to that. And the value would be not just, oh, I'm giving you some hidden secrets and some nuggets or some gems or whatever people call it. You can find that on my YouTube channel right now. You could find everything that I do for my business on my YouTube channel. You just have to look for it, right? If I did something like that, it would have to be of value, because I understand that there's people that watch my channel that are not in the best financial situation. There's people that watch my channel that are trying to better their financial situation. So I would be a straight up and down asshole if I preyed on those people and was like, you know what? I'll teach you how to get rich right now if you paid me X amount of dollars. And they're going to come to learn something from me that they won't get any value out of, because I'm just selling them a dream, right? That to me is the craziest thing. And I always go back to when I was in shoes just like that, when I was talking to Larry and he first approached me about taking this class. And I was like, man, just give me I don't want to pay $300 or whatever to learn how to do this. I'm just going to keep asking the free questions, right? It got to the point where I was like, you know what? I believe in what he's doing, not because I wanted to support him, but because he was actually doing something that I really wanted, that I was like, all right, you know what? Now is the time that I need to pay for this so I could really learn how he's doing this. And that to me is me investing in myself into something that I know I could actually retain that information. I'm going to learn something here, and I'm going to be able to use what I learn in the real world. If I wanted to start a business in customizing shoes, cool, I could apply what he taught me and do that. But that wasn't the goal. It was just, I wanted to learn how to do it just to learn. And I know there's people out there that are just like me when it comes to this, because they learn the way that I learn. They learn because somebody is, creating t-shirts and doing what they want, and they have the access to me to learn from me. And that's why I make YouTube videos. And it's like, I'd rather you guys learn this stuff for free before you have to pay for any additional knowledge that you might need. I try to make the videos as helpful and pack them with as much value as I can, so people can understand what I'm doing. I try to talk to the people like myself. Everything on my YouTube channel is made around somebody learning exactly like myself. And that's why I do what I do. So when I hear the people say, invest in yourself and you're the only person that's going to believe in yourself, I believe that to a certain degree. I don't believe in wasting money. I believe in making better financial business decisions, because we're all on tight budgets. And if we're just going to throw money around all crazy, and hope something comes out of it, I'd rather somebody invest the money into something where they're going to get some value out of, so they could actually better themselves and use that information to make money. And just like Larry did, Larry gave me the game, man. He put me on to the shoe painting world, or the customized sneaker world, where I was using the wrong paints, and now he put me on the right paints. I was using the wrong brushes. He put me on the right brushes. He taught me how to mix, certain mediums with the inks and the paints to get the right consistency and, create a durable, long-lasting painted shoe. And that's what I was mainly lacking. Was I just wasn't I knew what I was doing, and I had, the color blocking down, and I understood what I wanted the shoe to look like. I just couldn't get the shoe to last long. And then, I picked up other gems by like buying shoes with different color soles and being able to paint the tops of them, how to dye the shoestrings, how to do everything that didn't know I was struggling with, but I just overlooked. And he opened my eyes to that. And that $300, $400 was a game changer to myself, man. And it was me operating within my budget and saying, you know what, I could afford to do this because I want my shoes to look like his. Anytime that, there's a get rich quick program out there, or somebody selling some kind of course or masterclass or something like that, by all means, get your money. That's just not for me. You know what I mean? I haven't seen any type of masterclass or program or anything that stood out to me that I was like, you know what, I'm going to invest in this because I see the value in that. There hasn't been anything like that for me. There are things that I'm interested in, like when I see the homie Hustle Ninjas Rich, when he pushes the Etsy thing. I think he's selling on Etsy, or he teaches people how to sell on Etsy and do print on demand and stuff like that. He's dope because he shows the testimonials from the people that actually take his course or his program, and the people that he coaches to do this, because he's living proof of doing that, right? He's like the Larry of slinging t-shirts just that way. Like, he'll show you everything he's doing. So when I see people like that, then I'm like, all right, cool. There's a benefit to what he does, because he shows you, this is what I do for a living. And then he's like, let me teach you how I do this. And obviously his time is worth something to him, so you have to pay for it. If you wanted to get into that space, to me, that's a home run. That's like somebody actually saying, look, here's the proof that I do this. If you take my course, I'll show you exactly what I'm doing, and you can actually do this for yourself, because he shows the testimonials of the people that buy into his course, that use all of his rules and principles on how he does it, and it's benefiting them. That, to me, is what it's all about. But when you have somebody that comes out of nowhere and they're just like, hey, man, let me teach you how to do this, because they got a few flashy videos, and somebody buys into it, and now they wasted $500, $700 on some course of a bunch of fluff. And I'm like, damn, man, like, you preying on the people that are actually trying to better themselves. And that's the part that I don't agree with. And that's why I'm one of the, few people that haven't did a course or a class or anything like that. And anytime that I start to think about doing a workshop, I always go back and I think, what are these people going to get? What kind of value are they going to get out of it? What are they actually going to go home with? And that's the part that kind of hangs me up. And I've talked about this on my Instagram, and I've put up polls and stuff like that about who would attend a workshop here in California. And there's always people that are like, yeah, man, I'd do it too. For me, it always comes down to what my time is worth, and then what are the people going to get if they actually bought into a workshop from me, right? I could show people how to press shirts. I could show people how to embroider a hat. I could show people how to push the buttons. I could show them all of what goes on within my shop. But what type of value is that to somebody, right? They could see that on YouTube now. So it's always me thinking about, if somebody's going to pay to learn something from me, they need to go home and be like, all right, boom, this is what he does. I'm going to do this. And like I said, man, Larry is the biggest influence when it comes to that for myself. It's because I was in those shoes. I was like, nah, I ain't gonna pay for this. Let me just keep rocking with the free stuff. Let me keep asking him questions when I run into him. But I wasn't getting, and it wasn't like I sat in his class and I painted shoes. I literally sat in his class, took notes, and listened to him talk for 2 hours. Touched some of the shoes that he did, and he showed some samples and examples. And it wasn't even a hands-on thing where it was like, all right, here's a pair of shoes, you start painting, blah, blah, blah. No, it was him talking, me listening, me taking some notes and saying, all right, now I know what I need to do. I was using the wrong this, and I was doing this wrong, and let me fix this. And I was doing this part right, but I need to tweak it a little bit better to make it to look like this. All of these light bulbs started going off in my head, and I need that if I decide to start a workshop, or if I decide to do a class, or if I decide to launch a course. That's basically what I struggle with, is me saying, are these people going to get something out of what I'm talking about? You know what I mean? And like I said, there's tons of people out there that are like, yeah, whatever you do, I back you. I want to learn from you and blah, blah, blah. And that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. And I appreciate that. I'm very, very humbled by people saying that. But there's so much information already on YouTube where I'm like, man, am I not thinking about the people? And that's what this channel is all about, is about the people. And when I think about people that watch me, it's people that want to start these businesses for themselves to better their situation. I'm not trying to be somebody that's coming out here and trying to prey on people that are in a bad financial situation, because that's not what it's all about for myself. It's about how can I help those people? You know what I mean? And I say all this because I want people to understand, when you hear people say invest in yourself, I believe in investing in yourself. I 1000% believe in that. But I also don't use that term or that phrase just to get you to buy into something. If I'm saying invest in yourself, I'm saying do it from the comfort of your own budget. What really fits your budget? Invest in yourself, but do not go broke trying to get rich. And that to me means way more to me than anything else, because I know what it's like being broke. I know what it's like wasting money on certain things. I know what it's like wasting money on something with no return. And that is the shittiest feeling whatsoever, is knowing that you spent X amount of dollars on something and it's not making you no money. There's no money coming in on the back end of that. And it's you spending money on something that was just wasted. And you wasted your time, you wasted, your savings or whatever it is on hopes and dreams, basically. And that's something that I hold dear to my heart, because I know what it's like to be in that situation, and that shit ain't fun, man. And, when there's bills that need to be paid and you're over here kind of gambling with that money and risking it on hoping something's going to work out, oh man, that's such an unsettling feeling for yourself, for your family. If you have kids, if you have a spouse, that's a big gamble. And, I would hate to play with people's financials like that. So I stay away from it. But I do believe in investing in yourself. And I do believe that there's nobody that's going to believe in you more than yourself. So I do think investing in yourself is true. It's just, you have to do it responsibly. You know what I mean? And I'm not against it. But what I am against is, the sharks that are out there on social media that are preying on people just to make a buck. And that to me is kind of crazy. You know what I mean? That ain't for me. That's not who I am. That's not what I started this channel, or not why I started this channel. It was mainly just to help the people out. And I still stay true to that till this day, of trying to help the people out. And it's not, I'm not trying to say all this to be like, yeah, you know what? I'm on a high horse. I'm better than everybody else. But I do need people to know where I come from and where the idea for this channel came from, and why I do certain things, or why I do things the way I do. Because I do keep the people in mind. I do think about my own experiences and what I benefited from and what didn't work for me. And like I said, learning from books doesn't work for me. Learning from somebody that's actually living proof of what I want to do, I could learn from that all day long, man. I could listen to somebody if I'm genuinely interested in whatever that person's doing. I'll listen to that person, and I'm listening for the mistakes. I'm listening for, just kind of what people do to get ahead in life, right? What they went through, what their experience was like. So that way I could pick things up and be like, oh, you know what? I better not do that. Or you know what? Let me try that out. That might work. Because there was a time when I was investing in myself where I thought I was investing in myself, but I was just spending money, wasting time on useless shit. You know what I mean? I get geeked out over something, especially when it was like when I was getting new into printing and new into, creating t-shirts and stuff like that. I was buying stuff and just wasting money on things. And then I would have buyer's remorse after, because I'm like, damn, man, I spent all this money on this. It's not even that cool. I need to sell this thing now. And now I'm selling it at a discount because it's used. And, the resale market back then wasn't what it is today. There wasn't access to like OfferUp and all these other things. It was kind of just Craigslist and taken out of classified in the newspaper. And that was it. So I know what it's like to waste money on stuff and tell myself that I'm investing in myself, right? I was always searching for that validation that I'm doing the right thing and blah, blah, blah. That's not it, man. You kind of just have to really think about what exactly you're going to get out of whatever you're investing in, whether it's machines, whether it's equipment, knowledge, whatever it is. Like when I was looking into an embroidery machine years and years ago, I was looking at 6-head, 8-head, 10-head machines because I thought I needed a big machine to mass produce, right? Now I'm glad I never invested into these big 6-10-head machines, and I wish I knew earlier that I should just buy a bunch of different single heads, so then that way I could run multiple jobs at one time and really cover this, really cover the playing field. Is being able to do flats on one machine, hats on another, 3D puff hats on another, dad hats on another, and just have a bunch of single head machines doing different things. And then I could run them at different speeds and cycle jobs in and out. If I just had one machine with 6 heads, that machine's only doing one job at a time. And to me, the benefit is having multiple machines to do a bunch of different jobs. But this is where my head was. But back then I was like, I need to invest in myself. I need to buy a bigger machine and I need to do this. And if I wanted to be considered a real print shop and looked at as a real shop, I need to have a 6 or 10 head machine. If I have a smaller machine, I'm going to look like a hobbyist. I'm not going to look like a real shop. That's what my head that's the way I used to think. And that was the wrong way of thinking. You know what I mean? And I wasted so much time doing research on these bigger machines and trying to figure out how I'm going to fit this in my garage or how am I going to fit this in my workspace, that I wasted so many years of not buying a single head machine and getting to the money faster because I was worried about looking like an amateur having a single head machine, which is the craziest way to think. But that's how I used to think, was I need to have professional equipment to look like a professional. As long as my output is of quality, that's all the end user cares about. They don't care about what machine it was done on or how it was made or what, everything that I was worrying about. All they care about is a quality end product. And that's it. However I get to that point, they can care less. And that is where I started to really think all right, you know what? I need to kind of transform my thinking of business and how I'm operating and what people think of me, because I just need to do what's best for myself. And since I got onto YouTube, that's always what I preach to everybody, is just operating within your budget. But not just that, it's understanding who you are. Do not try to mimic somebody else. Do not try to play catch up with somebody else. Do not try to just be somebody else. You do you, be you, and you'll be fine within this business, because only you know your limitations. Only you know what you can do, what you're capable of. And I used to always think, I'm not getting this job because my shop is in my garage. I'm not getting this job because I'm pressing t-shirts in my dining room. I'm not getting this job because of this. And that was just built up in my head, because none of those customers ever stepped foot in my house. I would always meet them when I'm delivering jobs, so they didn't even know where the stuff was being made. And in my head, I was like, man, this customer's going to come over and they got to pick up their job in my dining room. And it's like, well, actually, I meet the customer somewhere else and I deliver the stuff myself, so they never step foot in my house. So why am I so worried about what I'm doing in my house or how I'm doing it or how I'm operating and all that? It was a waste of time and a waste of energy. And if I was a little bit more savvy about, how I was doing stuff or what I was doing, then I would have been able to like really pitch jobs and get a lot more work. But I always hesitated going to bigger clients, or when a bigger client would reach out to me, sometimes I would turn the work down and I'd be like, oh, you know what? This shop would be better for you because I can't do this. And I would make excuses for myself. And that's only because I was always worried about how I was doing the stuff. And, I was just getting in my own way. And a lot of times I would go to the Impressions Expo. Back then it was called ISS. And when I would go, I would always say, nah, I don't need to go to these classes, or I don't need to attend any of this stuff because I know what I'm doing. And it was always me making excuses on why I didn't need that. Sometimes there was certain things that I wanted to learn. And me being a cheapskate, I was just like, nah, I'm not going to learn that from, I'm not going to go to one of those classes. I'm just going to go to the free trade show, look at the stuff, touch samples, and blah, blah, blah. There's a benefit to some of those classes if that's how you learn. If they are teaching something that you want to learn about, attend them. And, I forget the homie's name. I want to say, I think he has a brand called Smooth Clothing or something like that. I run into him every year at Impressions, and he goes to the classes and he does it. And then the homies from G6 Customs, they're always going to Mamaki and learning more stuff about their machine and learning new things. And to me, these people are investing in themselves to learn what they have, to learn new tricks and techniques and better themselves for their business. And, don't be like me. I don't want you guys to be like, oh man, he don't go to classes, I don't need to go to classes. Nah, man, it's just how people learn is a lot different. So if something speaks to you and you can actually get value out of it, I highly encourage you to do that, man. And if there's a course or an online platform that you want to buy into because of somebody's teaching you something, if you believe in that person and you feel you could get value out of that, buy into that. You know what I mean? Don't always feel like you're going to get scammed. There are people out there to scam you, but do the research. You know what I mean? Like I said, the homie Rich from Hustle Ninjas, he's a perfect example. He sells these courses, but he's also showing that he does this for a living. Like he's really out here doing it. If you wanted to get into what he does, obviously you would want to learn from him. You know what I mean? And if I can kind of shed light on anything when it comes to spending money towards your business, it would be for education. It would be for knowledge. It would be for learning. Because like the machines and stuff like that, you could learn that on YouTube all day long for free. Transfers, all that stuff, you can learn that. There's people on YouTube showing you step-by-step tutorials. This is how you adjust the heat on your heat press that you just bought. This is how you figure out pressure setting. This is all of that stuff on how to push the buttons. You don't got to pay nobody for that. You can learn that on YouTube. But when it's actually learning somebody's skills that they're actually talking about, that's where I see the value, because now you're learning from somebody in the space that you want to be in. And, like I said, whenever I think about doing a class or a workshop or something like that, right? It's what kind of value are the people going to get? And that's what I want. I want that shit to be packed with so much information that people go home and just understand what I do or what somebody does for their business so they can better their business, right? And it's not, like I said, it's not get rich quick. It's, this is what I do, this is how I do it, and this is what really works for me. And for the people that operate like me, maybe they could find some sort of guidance within that. And that's what it's all about, is just providing the value. Learning from somebody that's doing exactly what you want to do, I think, is the best way to invest in yourself. If there's somebody out there that you see, or you, like for myself, somebody that I always was always intrigued by was the photographer Estevan Oriol, right? From my day job, I'm a photographer also, and what he does, what he shoots, the subject matter that he shoots is way different than what I do. But I love the look of what he does and the way he frames things up and his composition. All of that stuff to me is very interesting. And if he was ever to host a class or something, it's just dope to hear his thought process, and I'd pay to learn his thought process whenever he's shooting somebody, the reason why he shoots, the subject matter that he does, the gear that he uses, the things that he chooses to do is something I'd be interested in. And it's just me wanting to actually hear the person that I actually like his work. I want to know what he does or why he thinks that way or what it is. And I have no problem paying for that kind of stuff. And it's because I'm a fan first, but also it's because there's somebody doing what I want to do and I want to actually learn from that person, right? There's millions of photographers out here. There's millions of badass photographers out here that are selling classes and doing that. But it's because of this one individual where I actually admire his work. I'm like, I want to learn how to do what he does. I know I'm never going to be, shooting images and making images exactly like him, but I just want to know the thought process behind what he does. You know what I mean? Same thing goes for guys that run, clothing lines. When Johnny Cupcakes had his LA store, man, I would have paid to actually sit down and learn from Johnny Cupcakes about his branding, about his marketing, about everything that went into the concept of his stores to, everything from his branding and what he felt the end user should be about. So when he started doing TED Talks, man, I would watch all of them because I'm like, man, this dude is so creative and so dope and I love what he's doing. And it's such a cool thing to witness and watch. I want to learn from the person that's actually doing it, right? It's like when Nego first had Bathing Ape, and I was like, I wanted to know why he chose, the Air Force One silhouette. I wanted to know everything about a Bathing Ape, the name behind it, the thought process behind it, all of this stuff before the full over, like the all over print zip up hoodie. Way before that, like I was seeing Bathing Ape shoes, like the old school Bapestas that were patent leather on Melrose, and I forget the name. I don't remember if it was Workman's. I forget the name of the store that was selling them. They used to be down by Fat Beats, and I remember seeing that shoe and I was just like, man, that shoe looks crazy. It looks like Air Force One. It's all patent leather. Why the hell is there a star on there? Like, it was just so crazy to see where I was like, I need to know more. And when I did a deep dive and found out, that it came from Japan and what it was, anytime I would see Nego in anything, I would be in tuned. I'd be like, man, I want to learn what the hell he's doing. And it's stuff like that. For myself, I want to learn from the people that are actually doing it, right? And that's what I would pay for. Now, that's how I feel is if there's something out there that I want to learn how to do, I just want to learn from the person that I feel is doing it the best at the highest caliber, and I wouldn't mind paying to learn that, whether it's for the business or not for the business. Whether it's like I watch a lot of car cleaning videos on TikTok, and there's a girl that's down in Huntington Beach. I want to say her last name's Tran. I can't remember. I think her thing is called JT Detailing or something like that. But when I watch her clean cars, I'm like, man, if I were ever to get my car detailed, I want to bring my car to her because she shows what she does and the care she takes and the process of everything from ceramic coating to, paint correction, all the stuff that she does where she's like removing the seats out of trucks and cleaning it. And just, I'm like, man, if I'm going to do something, if I wanted to learn, I want to learn from her. If I want my car detailed, I'm going to bring my car to her. It's understanding that part of, I don't want to just learn from anybody. I want to invest in myself and learn from the people that are doing what I want to do. And to me, that's, I wish I would have known this a long time ago because I wasted so much time and so much money on just useless, dumb stuff that I knew I wasn't going to learn by, but for whatever reason, I was buying books, and I'm not the best reader. Well, I know how to read, but I don't comprehend what I read. And somebody says, oh, you should read this book. It helped me with whatever, like, my financial situation or marketing or business or whatever. And I buy all these books and I never read them. And if I do read them, I don't even know what the hell the book means. And I'm not getting nothing out of it. And, But in my head, I'm like, I got to invest in myself. This, millionaire read this book. I need to read this book too. We all don't learn the same, man. And that's the best, example I could give is just because this millionaire reads this book and it changed his life, it doesn't mean it's going to change my life if I can't comprehend what the hell the book means. But if I had to pay to learn from that millionaire because he was in the space that I wanted to be in, then instead of reading the book, I'd rather just pay to hear him speak. So then that way I could get some nuggets out of it. You know what I mean? And I think that's where a lot of people have a disconnect. It's because they hear people doing something and they're like, I need to do exactly that. Sometimes that's not what it is. Sometimes you have to find the workaround and you're like, you know what? Maybe I don't have to invest in that book, but if that person's out speaking, maybe I'll invest in him, hearing him speak. And that to me is way more beneficial than anything else. And I hope this video right here speaks to somebody, because I know there's a lot of people out there that are just like me that don't learn through books. And I'm not saying I'm dumb, and I'm not saying that, I'm slow or anything like that. It's just that's the way my brain works. And I couldn't figure it out in school. When I was in school, I just felt like I was slow. I thought I was dumb. I thought I didn't know anything. And I thought I was, slower than the rest of my class. And it was just because I couldn't understand why people could read something, comprehend what they're reading, and just move forward and be like, all right, yeah, I know what they're talking about. But if the teacher's talking, I could listen to the teacher explain what's in the book, and boom, it's in my brain. And I just couldn't make the connection of where I was lacking. And it's reading stuff. Yeah, there's certain things I could read that I'm interested in that I'll comprehend, but a lot of it, it's just words. And for me, it's learning from somebody else. And I didn't understand that till way later in life. And the homie Larry was the biggest example for me on, if I really am interested in something, I will go to somebody and listen to them speak and understand every single word that they're talking about, because it's something I'm interested in, and I'm actually interested in the person speaking because I know that person is doing what I want to do. You know what I mean? So I know that there's some truth behind it. There's no, this person's a fraud, or this person is selling me a dream or some snake oil or anything like that. It's like, nah, I want to actually learn from the people doing what I want to. And I think that's why tattooing and stuff like that is so crucial, because when people take on apprentices and stuff like that, it's because that person that wants to learn how to tattoo is learning directly from somebody, and they're hands-on, and they're working with that person. They're prepping the station for them. They're prepping the client for them. They're going through the motions to learn from who they look up to. And I think that's the dopest thing to me, man, is when I see apprentices, prepping the surface and doing all this stuff, it's because they want to learn. Yeah, maybe they're good at art. Maybe they're good at drawing, but they're not good at tattooing. And they want to learn from the person that they believe is the best tattoo artist out there. And they want to apprentice for that person so they can learn hands-on from that person. It's not, oh, let me teach you how to tattoo from a book. No, it's let me teach you how it's done. Let me show you what I do, and you pick up what you want out of this experience. And to me, best way to learn, man. And, if there's people out there that learn the same exact way that I do, and you couldn't figure out why, I still haven't figured it out. But I do know that if I hear somebody talk that I'm actually I care about what the hell they do and I want to do it, oh man, I'll sit there and I'll soak up all the game from that experience. So if you're thinking about investing in yourself, like I said, invest in yourself, but within your budget. Do not operate outside your budget. If something just doesn't click with you and it's something you can't afford, do not go broke trying to get rich, please. And like I said, if you learn like I do, man, find somebody that you really genuinely understand and appreciate what they do. And if that person's selling a course or a class or a program or something like that, then to me, that's worth investing in, because you're going to get something out of it from somebody that you actually believe in. You know what I mean? So appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you guys for keeping up with, just the podcast in general. Thank you guys for watching the stuff and engaging in the comments. And if there's anything that you wanted to see here or you're interested in story-wise, please let me know. And I'll try to create some content around it, or I'll put it in one of these podcast episodes. All right. Follow me on Instagram if you guys wanted to, Big Brandoh TV. If you guys got any questions, leave it in the comments for me. If not, catch you guys on the next one, man. Yeah.